Welcome back to part two of our conversation here on The Real News. I'm Kim Brown. Shir Hever joins me from Germany. We're talking about this latest bill that is now into law, passed by the Israeli parliament, creating a biometric database in which citizens are being asked. I understand this is like mandatory, Shir. I want you to get give us some clarity on this. But citizens are being asked to submit their fingerprints and their face prints to this database. And Shir, as we mentioned in part one, this is the second biometric database created by the state of Israel. The first one was aimed at Palestinians that were under occupation, and now this is being expanded to include all Israeli citizens. It's being sort of spearheaded by the company Hewlett Packard, HP, and there has been some pushback against this, as you mentioned, or as you told us in part one, that a number of Israeli parliamentarians were opposed to this, but yet went along with it for political purposes. But there has been protest against the database. Tell us about how the citizenry has been reacting to this news of this latest law.
Well, there was a whole series of security experts in Israel, and there's no shortage of security experts in Israel. It's a very common profession there. Who were saying there is actually no need for this database, and it causes more risks than gains. The only benefit of having a database in addition to just a biometric identity card or passport is that if somebody comes to the ministry, comes to the authorities under false pretenses with a fake name in order to issue a fake identity card in the first place, then that could be prevented with a database, as opposed to somebody trying to steal somebody else's card or fake their name or something like this. So that is the only thing that they could prevent with a database. But they say, well, there's very few cases of people actually trying that. It's very risky. That's not a real problem. The real problem is that the Israeli police, the Israeli ministries, they want more control over the citizenry. They want to have the ability to follow people, to surveil them wherever they may go. And HP is offering them that technology, and HP wants to offer that technology to other countries as well. That is why there's so much protest in Israel. But actually, it's not that much protest if you consider the risks. And actually, these demonstrations, these organizations that tried to prevent the biometric database, they were not able to stop it, and they did not become a mass movement.
So, Shir, talk to us about the civil disobedience, if any, that's happening in Israel. Are citizens organizing against this policy in the name of civil liberties? Is there talk of not submitting your face and fingerprints to be, civil disobedient against this new law? What steps are those in Israel who are opposed to this, what are they taking?
There's certainly talk of civil disobedience, and there's a Facebook group and a website calling on people, don't submit your biometric information, try to hold on as much as you can, try to tell other people what you have to go through when you go to the ministry to extend your identity card and so on, what kind of demands are made on you and so on. So that is the kind of protest that people try to organize. But because the law is rather unclear, the law stipulates that until July, people will actually have no choice and will have to give up their entire biometric information. But after July, they will have some choice. And that is in order to encourage people to wait. But actually, other people say that this is a wrong interpretation of the law, and it's actually the other way around. And it's not completely clear on what points people can still insist and what they will have to submit. So this is a matter of unclarity. I think, however, we have to understand why the protest has failed. And I think the main answer to this is that the protesters themselves and the organizers of the protesters, they refuse to address the issue that this is actually only the second database created by the Israeli government and not the first. They didn't want to make a connection between the basal system, which was created for Palestinians, and the new system for Israeli citizens. We tried to get here on The Real News somebody to speak on that, and they said, well, okay, but on that aspect, we don't want to talk about. And that's the problem, because Israelis don't want to feel that they are being subjected to the same policies that are already being implemented on Palestinians. And by making that kind of protest, by saying, look, we are not people under occupation, we are free citizens, we don't want to give our personal data to the government, they would actually put themselves in a position of solidarity with Palestinians under occupation, and politically that is impossible in Israel. That's the problem. And they don't want to be political, they don't want to say that they care about the occupation, they don't want to acknowledge that there is an occupation, that there are Palestinians living under occupation, so they keep silent on that point. And because they keep silent on it, HP wins, and they were able to push forward, and the protest was ineffective.
So why did HP choose Israel first for this project, in your opinion, Shir? And I mean, as you said earlier, if one country signs on to this and it's allowed to proceed, then it only makes sense that this will spread to other nations as well. So, I mean, this seems to be very Orwellian. It's very Minority Report, Jason Bourne, the Bourne Identity, to use those kinds of comparisons. I mean, but what does this mean for the rest of us? Can we expect the United States or European Union countries or countries in Asia to follow suit with this biometric database for its citizens?
I'm afraid that we have to be very vigilant. In the past couple of months, France has also tried to implement a similar policy of a biometric database for the entire population of France. That's 60 million people. And there was a lot of public protest, and they decided to back down. But if Israel will go through, and Israel does go through with it right now, that means that in France they can now try again. And there are already many politicians in France who say, Israel are the experts in fighting terrorism, we should learn from Israel, and if Israel does something in terms of security, we can copy that in Europe as well. And that is a major issue, because Israel is a kind of symbol, especially for right-wing movements, for right-wing parties. For President Trump in the United States, he said specifically we need to use the same security policies used in Israel, racial profiling specifically, and to copy them in the United States. And after September 11, Israel became sort of the world capital for homeland security products. Because Israeli companies have the advantage. They can say, look, we have tested our equipment, we've tested our technology in actual human beings on the Palestinians. So if you buy our technology, you buy battle-proven or tested and proven technology. And so HP are fully aware of that. And HP are now going to package their database capabilities to other countries and say, look, this has already been implemented in Israel. They are the #1 experts on security. So if you want to have security technology like in Israel, you should have a biometric database in other countries as well. And that is indeed the risk, that governments around the world will accept that kind of logic and will submit their own citizens to this violation of basic human rights.
A very chilling story coming out of Israel. Shir, we appreciate your reporting today. We've been speaking with our Real News correspondent, Shir Hever. He's been joining us from Heidelberg, Germany. Shir, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Kim.
And thanks for watching the Real News Network.